If you're struggling to move on after a breakup, here are three mistakes that you might be making that might feel good right now, but it's not necessarily helping you long term. Number one, just assuming your ex is a narcissist. I get it. We are so, angry sometimes and we want to be able to diagnose somebody. However, a very, very small portion of the population actually has narcissistic personality disorder. And these days, any form of selfishness or just crappy behavior is diagnosed by somebody as, oh, well, they just must be a narcissist. And the thing is that it's important to understand that most of the time people are acting from a place of selfishness or lack of self-awareness because they are emotionally immature, not that they are a narcissist. However, there are certain behaviors and habits that can come off with the same effect. So the thing is like emotionally immature people usually can kind of avoid hard conversations. They might make everything about themselves. They might project without even realizing it. And they might also try to protect themselves in a way that is not showing empathy for other people. So I am not a therapist, but I just want you to look into this a little bit more because suddenly just diagnosing everybody with narcissistic personality disorder is not really helpful. Also, it doesn't really help us to understand our own patterns in terms of how we react with this kind of person, where we do actually have a role, even if it means that we tolerated this. And I know, I have been this person too, and that is a very hard pill to swallow sometimes, that we have allowed somebody like this to stick around in our lives. Not that we invited them in, but that we maybe tolerated it for longer than we should. What does that mean about us and some of our wounds that we need to look at? So the thing is, let's look at the second one. So waiting for time to just heal all wounds. So the thing is that yes, okay, the emotional intensity of things can be lessened over time, but it doesn't mean that you're healing the actual wound or the scar that got ripped open, the cut or whatever it is. And time doesn't fix this. It gives you space from it. It can make you bury it maybe. And yes, sometimes it can make it definitely quieter, but it doesn't mean that wound is gone, so that if you might get triggered or something might happen, it might get ripped open again. And that's because the actual wound itself is not healed. And there's still something still sitting there, and it can show up again in your reactions, in your triggers, in who you're drawn to, how you deal with things, whether you get into fight, flight, or freeze. You end up getting triggered by certain words, certain phrases, certain behaviors, or maybe it's that you shut down and you can't deal with things, or even that you can't confront situations head on. And remember, what you're avoiding is usually what you need to do. And I know that really is a difficult one, but it's unfortunately the truth. What we avoid usually gets worse. It does not heal itself. So the third one is just talking about your breakup, just talking about your ex, or just trashing them or whatever, doesn't help you heal. Yes, there's a part of us that we need to rant, we need to get it off our chest. But what you'll find is that if you're not regulating your emotions, and the important thing to remember here is emotional regulation does not mean you're suppressing it. Okay, with EFT tapping, which is what I teach with my clients, you have to feel your feelings, you have to acknowledge them. So if that means that if you're angry, for example, we do like a tap and rant exercise. What does that look like? So that means that you're sitting there tapping, and for those of you guys who don't know EFT, it means that you're tapping on acupuncture points on the face, and you are talking and articulating what your feelings are, and you're getting them off your chest. You can be petty, you can swear, you can just be angry, you can cry, you can say whatever you need to do. You are articulating it, and you're bringing these things up to the surface so that you can release them. Because most of the time we either just talk about things, we end up re-triggering ourselves. Because has it ever happened to you that you start thinking about something that somebody said to you, or somebody did, or a situation, and you started getting more and more angry the more you talk about it? Or maybe you started talking about something and suddenly it brings up a flood of sadness and pain and hurt. And those are all completely normal. But when we have a tool like EFT tapping, we allow ourselves to bring this up safely while be able to, if you think of it like a teapot, like when it starts boiling over, if you let the steam out little by little, then you can allow it to stay, without blowing the lid off. And that's what tapping does for us, is it allows us to feel things while calming ourselves and releasing these emotions, because we've given ourselves permission to have them. And you're not, reacting, reactivating it. You're able to release by bringing them up. So at some point, these things have to shift, and it's important to understand, like how these feelings actually feel in your system, and how to be able to deal with these things. So this is why I work with EFT, and as you know from my Heartbreak to Healing little videos and everything like that, EFT is such a powerful tool, and I encourage anybody who's going through a breakup to really look at some of the patterns that they are doing that might not be helping them to heal forward and get through this difficult time. So if you're done going in circles with this, you can always follow my videos and subscribe, and stay tuned for my Heartbreak to Healing community that is coming up soon, where we'll be able to help each other heal. And I have my program that will help you to be able to go through the 12 weeks while allowing yourself to release those emotions, to release and rewire your brain in terms of healing those belief wounds that we might have picked up, like, getting rejected or abandoned, things that really have to do with your attachment style. And of course, rebuilding your confidence again so that you can move forward in life and really feel like you are empowered again. So like and subscribe for more.